Hey everyone, Rob here. In this video, I want to answer the question once and for all, can you sell courses online with free traffic? And the answer to that is not quite as simple as just yes or no. There are some nuances to it. There are some different things that you have to consider if you want to use free traffic or content marketing to generate leads and to drive sales in your business. There are some factors that are really important to consider that I'm going to walk you through when it comes to the platforms you use and the types of content you create and how you basically go about promoting that and promoting your business, okay? So the first thing that you really need to look at when it comes to content and social media marketing is what's called deliverability. Okay? Now, deliverability means the frequency and the rate at which your content is seen by people on the platform. How often your posts are delivered to people viewing and browsing the platform, okay? And this is very, very important for a couple of reasons. For one, deliverability plays a role in your account growing and you gaining followers and you gaining new viewers and new leads and customers. It also is very important in terms of you reaching your existing audience. So deliverability changes over time. It changes with the algorithm and it changes depending on how a platform works and new features that they add and things like that. So generally speaking, on most social media platforms, the newer features have the highest deliverability because the platforms want to promote and encourage people to use those features. They're also the most popular because they're new and they have that new appeal. And if you take a look at Instagram, for example, right? Reels are much better in terms of deliverability than regular old image posts, okay? And the reason for that is that Instagram want people to see them and they show them to people more often. So you also have to think about deliverability, not just to the general user base of the platform, but also to your specific audience and the followers that you have. Because if you had a page on Facebook in 2010 or 2011 with 100,000 followers and you made a post with that page, then you probably would get about 90% delivery, right? Which means 90% of your 100,000 followers would see your post that you've made. Now that's very, very big for business, right? Because that means all of those people are seeing your post, and if you're promoting a product or an offer or an opt-in or a webinar or something like that, then those people are going to click over, you get lots of traffic, you get lots of customers. It's very, very useful. However, around about 2015, that changed. And now, if you have a fan page with 100,000 followers and you create a post on Facebook, you'll probably be seen by 1% or less of those people, which means that it's almost useless as a tool for free traffic. And that change was very quick. It happened overnight with an update to the Facebook platform. And there were people who built their businesses on just using Facebook that were really killed by that, right? Because they suddenly went from having loads and loads of traffic, very high deliverability, and lots of clicks and leads and customers to having almost none with one little change that Facebook made. So this really highlights the importance of not just relying on one platform or one traffic source, and building an email list so that if anything happens to your social media, it doesn't actually really affect your business in a broader sense. Okay, so those are two very, very important tips for you to understand. But also, you want to consider deliverability when you're choosing where you're going to post your content and what content you're going to create and for what platform. Because you need to ask yourself, how good is this platform at helping me reach new people who I've never interacted with or been seen by before? And how good is this platform at getting my content in front of my existing fans and followers and audience? Because you want to be reaching both of those groups of people as much as possible. So for example, Facebook now is terrible at deliverability. Posting organic content on Facebook is basically pointless. And the only real organic traffic stuff that happens on Facebook is done through Facebook groups these days. Okay, that's especially if you want to grow, right? TikTok, when it first came out, had extremely high deliverability. So that's declining a bit now, but it's still very, very high, which means if you post a piece of content, loads and loads of people end up seeing that, right? And those are really, really good factors. So you want to think about that, right? Twitter has pretty good deliverability. YouTube has very good deliverability because videos are quite persistent, so people can watch them over a long period of time. You'll have a video that gets views on day one, and then a week later it'll still be getting views, and a month or 2 months or 6 months later it can still be delivered people and still be getting views. Okay, so that's a really good thing to think about. The second thing that you want to consider is virality. And virality is very, very important. It ties into delivery, but virality is the ability for your content to be shared and to spread and to reach new audiences and new demographics that you wouldn't have otherwise been in contact with. That way they're getting exposed to your business and you're attracting more people to come and buy from you, okay? So virality is dependent on the platform's sharing functions. If you look at something like Twitter, Twitter has incredible virality because in order to spread a piece of content, you just click a little button that says retweet, and suddenly that goes out to your audience as well, and that is spread, okay? So that's really excellent. It's very, very easy to share content and to spread it and for it to go viral. And due to that, it's very, very easy to reach lots of people even when you're starting out. If you create good content on Twitter, even if you have a small audience, that content can gain traction. It can get into this viral spiral where it starts to be shown to more and more people. They retweet it, they spread it more, and it gets huge. And you can get literally thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of views with a single piece of content, even if you have basically no audience and you're starting very small, right? So that's really, really, really powerful. Other platforms have really bad virality. So Instagram has terrible virality because sharing a post on Instagram is really inconvenient. You know, if you want to say share somebody's just regular feed post they've made, you have to like screenshot the post, crop out the image, repost it, tag them in it. It's so much effort, right? So you don't really go viral on Instagram. The only organic growth you really get on Instagram is through the Explore page if your stuff gets big and popular enough to actually get shown on the Explore page, which doesn't really happen if you're starting from scratch and growing a brand new audience, right? That's dominated by existing pages that have hundreds of thousands, millions, tens of millions of followers, and very often also pay for things like engagement. So that's something you have to understand, okay? On Instagram, this is a dirty secret that people don't like to talk about, especially in the marketing world, especially in the influencer world, but most people who have big Instagram accounts that are growing quickly are paying for that growth. They're paying for promotions and shout outs and boosting their page, and that's how they're getting new followers and attracting people and getting leads, okay? Because the organic growth on Instagram and the viral potential on Instagram is just terrible. It's basically non-existent, right? So that's the second thing that you have to really think about. Now, the third thing that you want to think about is longevity. Now, longevity is really, really important because every single piece of content that you create is like a mini digital asset for your business and for your brand. And you want those assets to work for you for as long as possible. So every piece of content that you create, what I suggest doing is archive it in a folder when you create it so that you keep all of it stored on your computer, right? Don't just get rid of it. Don't just post it on the platform and then forget about it. No, keep it archived on your computer or in the cloud if you use that, right? And that way you can recycle that content, you can reuse it, okay? Because if you create a post that does really, really well, then you can repost that in a year or 2 years, or maybe even less than that, maybe in a few months again, and it might do really, really well again, right? Also, on certain platforms, you can repost your own content, right? So on Twitter, you can retweet your own tweets. So if you have a tweet that performs really well, you can retweet that, bump it up into the top of your order again, and it'll start being shown to your audience. And people who didn't see it the first time will now see it and engage with it. People who otherwise wouldn't have seen it at all because they didn't follow you yet or whatever, then they're going to see it, and you can get more engagement and traction that way, and it'll just further grow your brand. And that's now content that's working for you repeatedly and helping grow your business, get you more leads and customers without you really doing more work, right? The content is being recycled. Additionally, if you create content for something like Instagram, let's say, right? It's just like a nice image for Instagram or a nice short video for Instagram. You can use that elsewhere, okay? If you have a nice short image, you can now post that on multiple platforms. You could put that, let's say you have a TikTok, you can put it on TikTok, you can put it on Instagram Reels, you can probably put it on Twitter as well, etc., right? If you have a nice image, you can put that on Instagram, you can put that on Pinterest, you can put that on Facebook if you want to. You can put that everywhere, right? An image is really, really recyclable. So you can post the same content on multiple different platforms. You can recycle it, you can reuse it. That's one thing to consider about longevity, okay? How many places can you reuse this content in, and how many ways can you repurpose it? The other thing you want to think of is longevity on the actual platform. So some platforms, if you post a piece of content, it'll be seen for like a day, then it'll disappear. Other platforms, if you post a piece of content, it will be seen and it will continue to be seen for a very, very long time. So if you have a YouTube video, for example, and that YouTube video performs well and it has good deliverability, because the better the video performs and the more engagement it gets, the more YouTube will deliver it to people's recommended feeds and their suggestions and things like that, okay? So that's like deliverability. Then through that, it will go more viral because people will share it and spread it more, etc., right? And it has really good longevity, because 6 months after you post a YouTube video, a year, 2 years, 5 years after you post a YouTube video, that video can still pop up in people's suggestions or their recommended feed and still attract viewers. Or if it's ranked for a certain search term and they search for that thing, they can still stumble across your video and view it, and you can still get traffic and leads and grow your business from that, right? So the longevity of YouTube is incredible. And in terms of that factor of using a piece of content as an asset, YouTube is really the best platform, okay? Now, if you think about Twitter, then the longevity is really low. If you post a tweet on Twitter, it will get engagement for a few hours, maybe a day, and then it will just drop off people's feeds and kind of disappear, right? If it goes viral, it might go for longer than that because it's being spread. So you might get a couple days, a week out of it. But after that, it's going to disappear unless you do what I said before and you recycle that content by retweeting it and bringing it back up to the top, okay? So the longevity on Twitter is actually okay because of this ability to re-bump up your own content by retweeting it, right? And other than that, it's really low, right? So if you didn't have that feature, if that feature suddenly went away, then Twitter as a platform would become much less valuable for businesses. Similarly, with Instagram posts work a lot like Twitter posts. You post them, and for a day, maybe a day or two, you're gonna have people seeing those posts and engaging with them. After that, they're just gone. They go down the feed, no one really cares. Unless your post is really, really popular and you have a huge page and a huge audience with tons of engagement, and your stuff starts to get shown on the Explore feed, that content's just kind of gone, right? And you can't repost it, you can't retweet it. There's nothing you can do to bump that back up. So the longevity of Instagram content is terrible. It's some of the worst out there. Okay, Facebook is also really bad, but you can kind of repost your Facebook content, but it doesn't work very well. And again, like I said, Facebook organic reach and organic engagement is terrible anyway, so there's basically no point in using that, in my opinion. If you're going to be doing social media marketing, don't use Facebook. It's a complete waste of time, okay? Instagram can still work well. However, it's hard. It's harder than it was before. And growth on it is very difficult. Like I said, a lot of the people who are still growing on Instagram, they're using paid shout outs and promotions by other big pages so that they get attention onto their page and it kind of directs traffic in. And you have these networks of people that have lots of pages with lots and lots of followers whose job it is to basically feed influencers with new followers and new eyeballs, okay? It's a really funny whole industry. But that's basically the problem with Instagram, right? So if you want to do content to sell courses and to sell digital products or coaching programs or training or information or anything like that in the current era, at the time of recording this video, the best platforms to focus on, in my opinion, are YouTube and Twitter, okay? Now, if you use these two platforms in kind of accordance and coordination with each other, you can get really, really great results, right? Because you can create content for YouTube that's longer form, that gets more deeper engagement with your audience, and that has really great longevity so it can keep being delivered again and again. It can be reused in lots of different ways. You know, if you shoot a good YouTube video, you can also cut that video up into smaller segments, you can post it elsewhere, etc. And if you then incorporate that with Twitter, which has great deliverability and virality and the ability to spread and reach new people, then what you can do is you can feed these things into each other. So from your YouTube channel, when you have a video, you can say, by the way, remember to go and follow my Twitter. And from your Twitter, when you get new engagement and stuff, you can say, oh, by the way, I just posted a new video, go and watch my video and subscribe to my YouTube. And they feed into each other. And through that, you can have this compounding effect where the growth basically expands on itself. So you get that kind of exponential growth curve where the more you do this, the more it compounds on itself and the more quickly you grow. And eventually you end up in a situation where you have tons and tons of viewers and you can reach more and more and more people, and you can drive more and more traffic into your business and generate more and more sales. So it works really, really well using these two platforms in coordination with each other, okay? The other thing you can do is, like I said, recycle your platform elsewhere, recycle your content elsewhere. So if you have a YouTube video that has some good parts in it, cut it up into little clips, post it elsewhere, you know, post it on Instagram, post it on TikTok if you want. Take your tweets and do the same thing. If you have a tweet that does really well, you know, take the text, put it on a nice image, make an image quote out of it, and then go and post it on Instagram, right? So what you can do here is you can focus your content creation on YouTube and Twitter, but through doing that, you're also, you know, creating secondhand content for other platforms that are lower return on investment, like Instagram, right? So by focusing on these high ROI, high leverage platforms that have the best deliverability, the best virality, the best longevity, then you're getting the most return on your content marketing efforts and on the time that you're investing in creating things like videos, writing content, etc. But also you can repurpose a lot of that onto lower ROI platforms, and it's not really any extra work, right? To come up with a bunch of content for Twitter and then just copy paste that onto an image and post it on Instagram, it's like really easy, right? And you can have a virtual assistant do that or an employee do that as well if you don't want to do it yourself. Same with YouTube. If you shoot a good YouTube video, you can have an editor or a VA chop that video up and you can reuse it elsewhere, right? So what I would suggest for people who want to sell products with free traffic or with organic traffic in the current era is to focus on YouTube and Twitter right now, right? Just focus all your effort on that. And if you want to then repurpose this content onto other platforms, you can do that, okay? And it works really well and it's really easy and it's not really any extra work for you. You just kind of take the stuff you've already created and you just post it on the other platforms too, okay? But mainly focus on these two platforms. Or in some cases, if that seems like too much for you, or like if you don't want to do videos, or if you'd rather just do videos and you don't want to do Twitter, just do one or the other and just focus on that. Because to start off with, being focused is much better than being spread out and doing everything. Most people, when they start out with their business and they want to do content, they want to be on every platform. They think, oh, well, we need to be everywhere. We need to be on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok, everywhere, right? Terrible idea. All that's going to do is make a situation where you're overwhelmed, where you have too much content create for too many different platforms. It's all too much to manage. You don't have the systems in place to keep on top of it. You don't have the experience and the support structures built up to make that consistent and to make sure it performs well. And you don't have the time to put the right amount of effort into all of these different platforms for them to actually be effective for you. Okay, so then you just end up like dabbling and half-assing it in all of them, and it doesn't work. So it's much, much, much better when you're starting out to just focus on one or two and just do that, okay? And ideally, you want to pick platforms that support each other and that work well together, okay? So if you're thinking, I really want to do image stuff, then, you could say, okay, well, I'm going to do Instagram and Pinterest because I can repost all of the content that I put on Instagram on Pinterest and vice versa. It's really, really easy to do that, What I would recommend is for selling courses, for selling information, for selling training or anything like that, Twitter and YouTube are your best platforms. The Twitter environment is very good for sharing ideas and tips and educational how-to kind of information, okay? So because of that and because of the text format of it, and because of the viral aspects of it, it's great for people who want to sell courses or ebooks or anything like that. And YouTube has a lot of those same features too, in that you can go very deep on instructional information. One of the most searched terms on YouTube is how to, and then a string of something after that. So like how to repair an iPhone or how to XYZ, how to lose weight. How to is one of the most common search terms. So if you're selling courses or training programs or coaching, then YouTube is also great for that, right? So these two platforms work really, really great for the type of content that we'll be creating as info marketers and as people selling courses and education. But also, these two platforms have a really great combination of deliverability, virality, and longevity that makes them perfect for what we're trying to do. So if you want to sell courses, memberships, or coaching programs right now, then what I recommend is you stick to these two platforms. And if you want to learn how to use these most effectively to get the best results possible, and if you want to learn how to create courses and training programs that sell themselves and that are really, really popular, and if you want frameworks and guidance and step-by-step advice for everything else, then go ahead and become a client. Check out the programs in the link down below, and I'm sure you'll really love them. I'll see you soon.